right. Hey. Oh, I know what's going on. I don't have my little thing in front of me. That's what I was looking for.
That's a personal problem.
It is a problem, John. How do you get it to be in front of you? I guess you grab it and bring it like this.
I just do the tuck.
Yeah. If I tucked it, I couldn't read it. What are you talking about? I'm talking about my script. Here we go. Hey.
Oh, that's what I meant to.
Welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of the importance of 1980s pop culture and its influence today. Hey, my name's Will, and joining me, as always, are my very good friends. I've elevated, promoted. I promoted you guys.
Ooh. We're
actually like one of my really good friends and another person, Kat and John. Oh, that's kind of like Marcus not saying who his favorite is, though, I guess.
Who his favorite is.
Anyway, hey guys.
It's a mystery.
One of my very good friends and John will be here for the show.
Yeah, I didn't do that. Leaving the mystery open.
I didn't say that. Oh, hi, by the way.
Hello, by the way. And hey.
Hey, hello there.
Hey, hello there. Also, check out John on his very own podcast, Gen X Grown Up. There you go. Hey, on today's show, because, just last week, Tuesday, was the MTV Awards, the VMAs. I feel like they're calling them VMAs now to distance themselves from them being part of MTV, right? Because MTV doesn't have the, cachet or something that it used to.
It's almost a self-parody. Yeah. It's like if you say MTV and music in the same sentence, someone's going to follow up and going, I remember when they used to play music. That joke is
Will
dead.
You please do that laugh again? That's amazing.
I got to hear more from this character at some point. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, they're calling them.
That's Mitchell. You don't know me. Have we not met Mitchell?
No.
I had to meet Mitchell.
Another guy? Hang on. There's three of you. Wait, there's up to four voices now.
Future
Let's see, Kat,
Robert.
what do we got? We got Future Robert. I got to find that paper.
Yeah.
Future Robert.
It's on your side.
I have
some guy last week who had a New York.
It's
he was like,
that's Tony. It's Tony. Hey.
Tony.
Yeah.
Do you know what the third one is, Kat?
I don't know who the original third one was.
The original?
That is Future Robert.
No, the original third one is the bebop guy from Fred Flintstone.
Oh, Scooby-Doo. What is he?
Scooby-Doo. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, there you go. I just have bebop guy written down.
That's it. I think that's it. Yeah.
All right, there you go. Now I added Mitchell.
And
to the
last
list.
week you said you were trying to say first and you were like foist or something.
Yeah, that's Tony.
That's Tony.
Tony. Hey, it's the first time I did that.
Yeah, Tony was trying to get someone's bronze shoes when we did the Sugar Hill Gang True Crime.
That's
True
right.
Crime.
He made an appearance
He still got
earlier.
feet in them.
And I think Tony was arranging to have that guy arrested at the Phil Collins concert.
Yes.
He was.
Yes.
All kinds of places. Oh, we had an old guy last week too.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna write down the old.
What a cavalcade of
Yes.
characters that I provided for you accidentally.
Forget writing a book, John. You got a whole other in.
Screw Rich Little.
Yeah,
we
there
got
you go.
impromptu podcast dork.
Hey, so speaking of the MT, well, again, they're called the VMAs now. Speaking of those, which just happened last week, we're going to talk about several of the moments, highlights, controversial moments, that occurred during the 1980s. And there's a couple that were outside of the 1980s, but that involve folks that we grew and loved and came to be what they are ultimately known as during that decade. All right. Hey, before that, though, and we're going to talk about some news, current news stories related to 1980s media, including there's a new Pet Sematary movie coming out, and Stephen King himself has weighed in. And we know that guy does not hold back on opinions.
No, he does not.
The Gremlins animated series that came to HBO still has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'll explain why that's interesting to me. And then finally, it seems like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny may be getting a second life in our homes. That I feel like, may, and this is related to the Gremlin story, actually, and may ultimately be retribution for our beloved intrepid archaeologist.
Yeah.
Hey, before that, though, a brief announcement. We're going to be changing up the the schedule of the show, and maybe a little bit of the format in a sense. No, the format's intact of the actual show. Here's the deal, just a straight deal. So at least through the end of the year, that's my commitment, is through the end of the year, we're going to do the show every other week. And here's why. It allows us to make a even better show every other week than bring you garbage every week. We're going to concentrate that garbage into 1 week every other week.
Way to set expectations, Will.
Right?
The pressure now.
Okay, so that's, yes, the pressure. Actually, you have pressure now not to give up, not to produce garbage.
Exactly.
All right. Kat, I'm going to need a sidebar here. So you and I.
Yes,
so do you think it's that he can't handle us every single week? He just needs to recover. We're so enthusiastic and exciting and ebullient that he's like, I need time to recharge to keep up with these two. That's got to be it, don't you think?
I think you're right. He needs a break from from the Cat and John show, the constant interrupting and the.
I would need a break from us, certainly.
Yeah.
And all the voices and.
I'm not going to say you're
phone calls.
wrong, but that's certainly not what came. That's not the impetus. I would say that's a benefit. But it's a feature, not a bug. I don't know. But the real reason is, two things. One, to bring you better episodes. But even, I guess, to be more honest with you, is I've been working on a book that's set in the 1980s, and I've been working on it for some time. And I need to get that thing done because I want folks to read it. Or not. Actually, honestly, not. I really mostly want it to be done. If anybody reads it, that'd be bonus.
You don't want anyone to read it. You want to finish it and no one read it.
No, that's not what I'm
Ideally,
saying.
no readers. Well, if they're not going to read it, there's no need a proofreader. Then that's great. It's really helps out.
It's set in the 1980s. Hip hop is an element. A lot of other things are elements that are interesting. And an aspect, or the protagonist of the story is an Indian boy, a teen, who emigrates to the United States in the early 1980s. When hip hop is just sort of burgeoning. That said, because for these episodes, I've arranged a slightly different version of our theme song for those episodes. And this is just a draft of it. This is just a draft.
I'm so excited.
But I'll play for you guys this draft. So this isn't complete yet, but this is so far.
Oh, let's hear it. Oh my gosh. It's so cool. Ooh. Oh my gosh.
There you go. So part of, staggering the show to every other week again is to allow me time to finish the book. But that said, you may very well still hear from us as often as you do, because what I would like to do in addition to our every other week show is, because I'm going to be working on the book anyway, is sit down with folks like you, if you're willing, Kat and John, and some other folks that I've reached out to that have some knowledge related to different aspects of the book. And in between our regular show, we'll publish these other, probably shorter episodes, but episodes that, again, we're talking about the 1980s every week, regardless.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Whatever. Enough about my own stuff. All right, hey,
exciting.
That's enough.
That was so cool.
What do they call it?
Very cool.
Masturbatory exercises. That idea that you're just spending too much attention on yourself.
I was going to go with preemptory, but hey, yours is good too.
Yeah. All right. Hey, where am I putting my notes? Here we go. All right. Hey, let's get caught up on 1980s. Hey, this week in 1980s news, as we mentioned, and as reported by Cinema Blend, Stephen King offers praise for Pet Sematary Bloodlines. Fans of Stephen King? Books, movies, anything?
Yes. Particularly short stories. Like all throughout high school and college, I would read Night Shift, all the short stories in there. Books on tape from Stephen King. I always enjoyed especially the short stories. And then stuff that gets turned into films, which a lot of 80s films were based on short stories that he had. And he has his finger on the pulse of super creepy by being overly descriptive. And I always like that about him. Like, it's the way he describes things. Yes. He keeps going. And like he done it, and then furthermore, it was covered with slime. And we're like, he's super creepy in a way that doesn't feel like he's trying so hard at it, but it works so well. And it's just terrifying.
You remind me. There's certain imagery that has stuck with me still from some of his. I think it's in Four Seasons or Skeleton Crew, the one, the raft. I think it's called The Raft. It's with that. They made it. It's in Creepshow. There's like this mysterious sort of slick creature. It turns out to be a creature. It looks like an oil slick, but it's a creature that kills these kids on a raft. These teenagers
on the raft.
And he describes one of them being pulled through the raft, it's like one of those floating kind of wooden things in the middle of a lake that you can rest on. and this thing is like slime, so it reaches through the wood and pulls somebody through it. And he described it sounding like a garbage bag being pulled through a chain link fence, something like that. I was like,
yeah,
I knew exactly what he meant, and I've never forgotten, more or less.
You mentioned that there's a very vivid line that I always remember, and I've plagiarized many times and no one's noticed. It's from a short story called Mrs. Todd's Shortcut, and he's just describing how someone disappeared, and he says, "A disappearance isn't quite like a death. With a disappearance, it's like chopping something off with a cleaver. The blood's going down the drain so slowly that you're not quite sure it's gone till long after it is." Like, whoa. And it's like, what a way to explain a disappearance. It's just like gradually and then, oh, poof, it's gone.
Now I'm wondering the context during which John uses this quote, plagiarizes it over and over again. The only thing I could think is to his victims.
No one's ever sued me for the plagiarism, so
there you go. No one's ever pointed it out. Yeah,
they never lived to blame me for it.
Are you a fan, Cap?
I'm both familiar and unfamiliar with Stephen King because, of course, I feel like I've been hearing his name and just like I know all the names of these movies. I did read Christine. I guess I've seen a few films, stories he's written, but as we know, I'm not like a huge fan of horror. Sure. So it's at arm's length. It's like, oh, of course, Stephen King. But I can't tell you all the details because
we got Maximum Overdrive, Stephen King truck movie. So good stuff.
Yes. That's right.
And I did watch that last year.
Yeah. Well, look, I can't think of anybody, maybe Clive Barker, maybe give him a run for his money, but Stephen King has got to be still the reigning king, I guess pun intended, of horror. And as you alluded to, his stories, his short stories, his books have been adapted into countless films and TV shows at this point, including 14 films in the 1980s alone. Just in the 1980s. In fact, that might be the most in one decade for him, I think.
Was Cujo one of them? He wrote Cujo, right?
Yeah, Cujo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I watched that.
There you go.
Okay, got that one down. Carrie?
What's that?
Yep.
Did he write Carrie?
Carrie, yeah.
I saw that.
1976 film.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And a remake in the 2000s, too. Yeah.
Okay.
But the forthcoming Pet Sematary Bloodlines is unique in that it's not based on an entire King story. Instead, it's an adaptation of just a single chapter of the Pet Sematary novel. And the unconventional approach has actually garnered the approval of King. And like we mentioned, he does not hold back. If he thinks you made something that's garbage, he will tell you. But with regarding this upcoming film, he took to Twitter to say, in the book, this is the story Judd Crandall tells Louis Creed to try and dissuade him from using the Pet Sematary. The screenplay takes a few liberties, but it's a fine story. David Duchovny is excellent. The secret, as always, is caring about the characters. So there's this ominous tale that one character tells another in Pet Sematary, and these other writers and director have turned this into a full-fledged film that's due to come out.
It effectively makes this a prequel.
Yes.
In a way, because the story he's telling is something that happened prior to the Pet Sematary story, but within the context, because it was a story he's telling, a flashback, if you will. So that's cool. It's like an embedded prequel, kind of. Yeah, that
is really cool.
Right.
I probably won't watch it. The trailer was enough. Why do they follow that creepy dog? Why?
Because you gotta know.
There's only one way to get the answers, Kat. Gotta watch it. No one tell it. You're right, John. It is a prequel, for no matter how you look at it. In the very least, the film adaptation, the first film adaptation took place in 1989, or roughly there, about the year in which it came out. And this particular film is set in 1969. And it stars Jackson White, who I don't know, as the young Jed Crandall. Now, Jed Crandall is the character that in the 89 adaptation is played by Fred Gwynne of Monsters and Car 54 fame.
Oh my gosh, Fred Gwynne.
Oh, you didn't know he was in
the
it?
2000s. No. Oh, no, didn't you?
Okay.
I think in the 2000s remake, didn't Stephen King play him? I believe that's right.
Really?
Oh.
I think so.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't
I could be wrong, but that's what I remember. Yeah.
But he's not, we've seen him in a lot of things now. He's not a good actor.
Well, he doesn't need to be a very, very good actor.
I don't know. I mean, but Fred Gwynne was.
He was, yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
And Fred Gwynne has the dubious distinction of having one of the most. I was a big fan of horror in the 1980s. I saw all those things. I think Pet Sematary, 89's Pet Sematary is not a good movie. But the thing that sticks with anybody who's seen it is what the little kid who comes back to life does to Fred Gwynne's character.
Uh-oh.
I'll just have to say that much. I won't say what it was. It's just terrible.
Oh.
Even just thinking about it. It's kind of like when guys talk about, their, when I taught the story about my vasectomy, John said everybody would wince. Thinking about that has me feeling pains in my legs and my Achilles tendon in particular.
I was wrong. It was John Lithgow. I had to go look it up because you were doubting me.
John
Okay.
Lithgow.
Oh, thank goodness.
I know
Good
who
answer.
that is.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, maybe he had a cameo or something. Maybe that's what I think. Anyway, it was not Stephen King. So
Yeah. Well, this story follows the Judd character and the woman that he will eventually marry, Norma, who's played by Natalie Allen Lynn, someone else who I'd never heard of. They're ready to leave their hometown of Ludlow, Maine, to take on an assignment for the Peace Corps. Their plan, however, is interrupted by Timmy Baterman, played by Jack Mulhern, a childhood friend of Judd's who didn't return from the Vietnam War alive, but is seen walking around thanks to his father, played by David Duchovny, taking a trip to the notorious local burial ground.
bad news.
So the general premise is when you bury something in Pet Sematary, it comes back. That's the idea.
I was gathering that from the article and the trailer. I didn't really know what was going on in the Pet Cemetery.
As Kat mentioned, you could watch the trailer now, which it premiered on September 12th. And the movie itself will debut on Paramount Plus just in time for Halloween on October 6th.
Oh, really?
It's the season.
I'm ready.
Yeah. I feel the season already. Yep. I love this season.
I like it once we get to mid-October. It takes me a little while to be okay with it.
Okay.
Oh, really? It's almost over by the time you get to mid-October.
That's okay.
You have to start enjoying Halloween mid-September, so you get a few weeks of it.
I like Halloween, but I'm not a super fan. Yeah. I know there's people who start in July.
Yeah, I should have started in July. I'm not sure if I'm going to go through with my new plan this year or not.
Oh.
I don't think so. I don't know. I can't. I'm working on my book. I just told you guys. I have time for anything else. All right, here we go.
No new projects.
Hey, another 19.
Finish the ones you started.
Sorry, honey. I can't do dishes till January. All right. In other 1980s news, Gremlins, The Secret of the Mogwai, still has a perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes. So you may recall we teased this when it was about to come out. We never followed up on it when it actually did come out. And I've never watched it. Have you guys ever checked it out?
I forgot about it.
Okay.
Not yet. Yeah, I'm going to, though, because for two reasons. Because it's Gremlins and because of this story. Because I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Because I know we're going to talk about the Rotten Tomato effect, but 100% is 100%. It doesn't get there for no reason. Is my assumption.
Hold that thought.
I will.
And in the very least, you recall that we talked about this, the Gizmo was returning to our TV sets. Well, he was greeted with open arms. The show debuted on May 23rd on HBO Max. It was then called HBO Max. That was right around the time, I think it just switched its name shortly thereafter to Max.
Yeah.
Max.
Which I've heard one story, they switched their name maybe to shake contracts they had with writers and actors as part.
It's the Prince effect. The same reason he changed his name to a symbol to get out from under contractual problems.
Yeah, I don't think it works that way. But
yeah, very clever. Isn't it weird you change your name to who used to be your main competitor in the 80s?
The whole thing is very strange.
It's so strange because they used to fight Cinemax for who got stuff. And then now, I guess they killed Cinemax. Well, that's it. You kill your enemy and you claim their name.
And you wear their face as a trophy.
Well done. Wear their face. Wear their skin like a suit.
All done. Yes.
Skull.
Yes. And something about the blood draining out so slowly you don't even realize, so it's gone.
That's right. Cleavers.
Long after, yes. Yeah.
Anyway, so the show is an animated series. It's not live action. And it's a prequel to the movies. But upon its launch, it had the unique distinction of debuting with a double perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes. It had a 100% approval rating from the critics and a perfect score with the audience.
Wow. Yeah. Impressive.
Here is one reviewer's comment. Secrets of the Mogwai has a human touch and a sense of humor and adventure that spans generations. That is Rolling Stone's Chris Wagner. It doesn't rewrite any books. I don't know what that means. But it's better than an animated prequel series to a 39-year-old live-action movie has any reason to be. I think that was a compliment.
That's kind of a backhanded compliment. Yeah, right.
Kind of, right?
That's right. Not as shitty as I expected it to be for what it is. That's what I heard.
Mama's geeky reviewer, Tessa Smith, writes, funny, dark, and a little bit scary. This series is something that families will be able to enjoy together. The incredible voice talent that is lent to the show alone makes it worth checking out. Now, that's true. It's got countless numbers of actors that you're familiar with, including Ming-Na Wen, B.D. Wong, James Hong, another big guy from the 80s, James Hong, and George Takei. It's a prequel, as I mentioned, because it's set in 1920s in Shanghai, and it follows primarily a 10-year-old version of Sam Wing, who is the elderly shopkeeper in the 1984 film that sells Gizmo to Billy's father, right? To be a Christmas gift. This series shows Sam befriend Gizmo, hoping to return the Mogwai to his family while keeping him safe from evil gremlins and other threats. Now, I haven't seen the movie, or the TV series rather, but already I'm wondering why, if the series follows in 1920s, him befriending him, hoping to return him to where he belongs. Why does he sell him to a stranger 60 years later? Like, what happened in the ensuing 60 years?
I know what happened. Probably Gizmo
Excellent question.
chewed up the book he was working on when he was nearly finished, and he was furious. Like, I'm going to just sell you to the next guy that walks in the door. You can relate, Will. Yeah. What if a gremlin chewed up your book?
I'd show him a bright light. That's what I'd do.
I'm just hoping no one reviews Will's book the same way as that backhanded comment. As shitty as I did it to me.
John, that'll be John's book blurb.
That'll be my review, right? Yeah. I'll write the foreword. You're going to be startled by how competent this book is, despite what you expected it to be.
Kat's review will be amazing punctuation.
Find something nice to say. That's Kat.
Hey, as of the recording, this recording that we're doing right now, the tomato meter, or is it tomatometer?
Tomatometer.
The tomatometer. It's got to be the thermometer. Tomatometer.
It's like, how do you say it in British? It's like aluminium versus aluminum. I think it's tomato meter, isn't it?
Tomato
extra syllable.
Tomatometer.
Yes, and the tomato meter or thermometer is the aggregate of the critic scores. Now, that is still 100% as of us talking today. The audience score, however, with fewer than 50 ratings, has slipped to 86%. Now, I bring this all up now, months after the show came out, because I remember when it came out that it had 100% in both, and that struck me as curious because you rarely ever see that. And it rarely stays, but months later, it's still 100% critics score. And quite honestly, although I haven't watched it, I've watched the trailer and I peeked at it, and it seems fine. It really strikes me as insane somewhat that there's a consensus among these critics that love an animated series that's made for kids or families based on a show that came out 40 years ago, a movie that was out 40 years ago, is really kind of startling to me and even curious. Now, look, I'm not suggesting these two are related, okay? But this is why I bring this up now, because a new report that just came out from New York Magazine suggests that Rotten Tomatoes scores can be easily manipulated. And in this report, they allege that a specific public relations firm named Bunker 15 has paid low-level, often self-published reviewers for positive write-ups as a way to game scores. They gave an example. The expose involved the 2018 movie Ophelia, a reimagined take on Shakespeare's Hamlet told from the point of view of his girlfriend, played by Daisy Ridley. The film reportedly had a 48% rating, but after the PR company's alleged paid reviews, that was bumped up to 62%, which was enough to take it from a green Rotten Tomato score to a red fresh one.
Money.
I guess. I have feelings about Rotten Tomatoes. First of all, I think in general, it can be very damaging to cinema in general. Just cinema with a capital C. Like just when you think of the art form of cinema. Because what kind of happens now is people check the score, and based on the score, they determine whether or not they're going to go see it. Or even if it doesn't do that, it gives them an expectation of whether or not they're going to like it. Like, I'm going to see it. Let's see. Oh, it's a 30. I'll go see it, but it's going to be bad. Like they already know.
Sure.
So they don't go in with an open mind.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I think also people look at the tomato meter as they don't understand that it doesn't mean that every critic gave it 100%. It's binary. If a review is generally favorable, well, that's fresh. If it's generally negative, well, that's a minus. And they average all those out, the pluses and minuses. It's like a chance of rain. A 90% chance of rain does not mean it's going to rain 90% of the day. It means, in this area, there's a high likelihood that it will rain. And I think the tomato meter, if people processed it like that and went, oh, well, it's got an 80%, doesn't mean I'm going to like it. It means a preponderance of people generally gave it favorable reviews. Maybe there's just 51% reviews, but those can count as a positive tick, you know?
Sure. Yeah,
That's the flaw, I think.
I never check reviews. I never look at Rotten Tomatoes.
Really? Ever?
I just go. If I want to see something, I just go. I think I don't really like hearing whether people like something or not. I don't want to know. If I'm interested in a topic or excited about something, I don't want to get unexcited about it. I just want to go enjoy it for whatever it is.
What about after, Kat? Like after you've seen a film, do you ever go and look at the reviews to see if your impressions match the general consensus or whether or not you deviated from that, or you don't care?
Nope, I don't care.
Don't care. I like what I like and hate what I hate. That's it. That's bold. I like it.
I hear it. I see it, just being kind of, immersed in the news. But no, I don't look at it or go for it. Yeah.
The only time I find myself looking is when I'm on the fence about something, mostly just with streaming. So if my wife and I sit down and we're trying to figure out what movie to rent or buy, on one of the streaming things that you have to pay for, Well, you have to pay for all of them, but the one that you have to pay transactionally per thing, we'll look. Some of them, I think it's Apple. Maybe when you buy it, they have the Rotten Tomatoes score like pulled in. So it's like really convenient. But if not, we'll
see right there.
We'll look on the site. I know it's flawed, but it gives me at least a quick, yes or no when I'm trying to decide which film among, 5 films or 2 films to watch. For their part, Bunker PR denied the manipulation, telling New York Magazine in a statement, "We have thousands of writers in our distribution list." Now, this is what I don't get about the denial. But they continue to say a small handful have set up a specific system where filmmakers can sponsor or pay to have them review a film. Isn't that what they're accused of?
Right.
Oh, there's a difference between being paid to review it and being paid to review it favorably.
Yeah. How do you know you're getting an objective? If you're getting paid, how can you really
possible
guarantee?
that you don't. It's possible that you don't, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you could review 10 films, you're like, I want to make sure you review mine. Maybe they can incentivize you to review theirs instead of someone else's to make it timely. But you have to be careful. That's a razor's edge where, well, do you want to give them a favorable view to encourage them to pay you the next time?
Exactly.
They're going to keep paying for crap reviews. So that's where the problem lies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. If I want them to ask me again, I'm not going to put them down.
Right. Rotten Tomatoes also said in a statement that they take, quote, the integrity of their score seriously and do not tolerate any attempts to manipulate them. Now, to your points, or to sort of pull all of this conversation together, it turns out a study's found only about 36% of moviegoers actually check the score before buying tickets at the box office. So they don't play even more than 50% of a role in folks' decision. But that said, there are times where we've seen it seems at least to play some role in the perception of a film is the score. And I'll give you a couple of examples. New York Magazine points out that scores for Blonde, I don't know that film, Blonde. I'm trying to remember what that is. But Blonde and The Whale. I know of The Whale.
Right.
Festival crowds overseas loved them, boosting their tomato meter scores for weeks in the 80s. But when American critics and audiences were finally able to screen the film, The Whale, for example, landed at 64 and Blonde at 42. Conversely, and this is the one that's, I think, of most interest to us, is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny initially had a low rating of 33%. I remember this. After the, quote, snootiest, end quote, Cannes Film Festival for 6 weeks before it was screened stateside. So I remember that. At the time, I was like, well, why did they let them see that if they're going to get trashed?
Yeah.
Except for that's not the venue for, this kind of swashbuckling popcorn film.
Yeah. I didn't really understand that. Yeah, it seems like such an incongruous thing for it to be shown there.
But after that period of time, the score of the film actually rose into the 70s. But this piece suggests that by then the damage was done, possibly playing a role in the disappointing box office numbers.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, as reported by IndieWire and Screen Rant, Indiana Jones 5 tops the VOD charts. So this film, which, I think we all enjoyed, it wasn't the first 3, but it was better than the last 2 or the last, better than the fourth one.
Better than the one that you love to hate.
This particular film achieved one impressive VOD streaming milestone, in spite of its box office, as we just mentioned, which wasn't. As you know, the film was directed by James Mangold. It was the 5th and final installment in the series. Harrison Ford was back to reprise his role as the adventuring archaeologist. You know about the film. You don't need to tell us about that. According to IndieWire, of the 4 titles that were added to a video on demand the week of August 28th, Indiana Jones took first place on all 3 VOD charts: iTunes, Google Play, and Vudu.
Woohoo.
Doesn't this feel like a confluence of 2 things to me? It feels like, yes, the tomato meter effect where, like you said, the damage was done. People saw it was 30% and went, meh. But the other thing is this post-pandemic world where you know it's coming to VOD pretty damn quickly.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of reasons to not go to the movies now. One could be, I'll go and go, oh, bad rating, I'll wait and see it on streaming. Or you could go, oh, it's not a big enough movie that I need to see it at the theater, I'll wait and see it on streaming. Or you say, oh, it's crappy, therefore I'll wait and mock it on streaming. Like there's so many reasons to not go see it, because getting up and getting in the car and getting a ticket and dealing with people that turn their phone on midway through the thing and blind you, all those are things, they're barriers to going to the theater.
Yeah.
And that affects the box office. I'm not surprised it's doing good in streaming because it's a fine movie. I'll go so far as to say it's a good movie.
It is.
But there's no... It didn't deserve the low box office that it got, but there were so many other factors swirling around it. Expectations from the studios haven't been readjusted since the pandemic, blah, 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 streaming. Yeah, all the things that you said. It doesn't surprise me.
I was thinking the same thing of enough people were probably like, it can't possibly be anything near as good as the originals, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait.
And I think ultimately look, we just said the problem with Rotten Tomatoes, so you take it with a grain of salt. But the fact that even rose, the ratings, the approval rating rose there, vindicates somewhat our feelings about it initially as compared to the original reviews from this festival. Now,
good point. Yeah.
Talking about the box office, according to one report, the film lost $100 million at the box office. But yeah, like John was pointing out, there's lots of factors that attributed to that, including the fact that we had the, Barbie and Oppenheimer films come out just, I don't know, within 2 weeks, maybe after it.
Was that it? I can't remember.
And counter to what you're talking about, John, with I'll just wait for it. Barbie is a film I would have imagined I'll just wait for, but there was something about the momentum of it and the conversation happening where I was like, oh, it seemed exciting to go and see it. So
FOMO kicked in, right? That's what happened.
Right,
people were like, oh, everybody's going to see it. I got to go see it or I'm going to be out of I can't wait for streaming because then I won't get all the memes. You got to go.
Yeah. I want it to be part of the conversation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like to your point, I suppose you need some kind of momentum, and maybe it's that, or like Kat says about indie, you want to see it on a large format. That has to get you out of your living room. Otherwise, it's so convenient to stay home.
We have a really small TV too. I really didn't want to.
Kat, I've got to tell you this though, Kat. The closer you sit to whatever device you have, the bigger television it becomes. So literally, if you hold your phone in front of your face relative, you got 120-inch projection screen.
Listen, my TV's there. My couch is all the way over there.
Look at this.
We'd have to move the whole couch.
So what I hear is move the couch. That's what I hear.
That's apparently we're supposed to move.
You got to scooch. You got to coordinate with your family. Ready? Scooch. It's like
coffee table's got to go.
I don't know if you've ever done rowing before, but someone would have to bark out, scooch.
I'm going to do that tomorrow morning when I'm in the boat.
Kat does row. She does do that. That's why I tease her. Well, despite its obstacles, this recent VOD data suggests that the film could gain some traction through streaming. And it's yet to be available on Disney Plus, which will open it up to an even greater audience that's, even holding out from paying the $20 to own it. Anyway, there you go. So that film that we all enjoyed and that some people shat upon is, on its way to redemption.
Yay!
All right, cool. Hey, all right, that's 1980s news. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, hey, as we mentioned, we're going to be talking about some of the more interesting moments from what were called the MTV Video Music Awards, I think, when we were kids.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some of the more interesting
video awards.
moments from those original years of the award ceremony, because just last week on September 12th, MTV aired the VMAs live from New Jersey's Prudential Center.
New Jersey.
Not too far from Kat and I are from our various hometowns in New Jersey there.
Yeah.
And so a lot of, a number of different interesting things happened to people that are probably mostly younger than us. Like the reunion of NSYNC happened, was a thing.
Wow.
Oh, Okay.
Taylor Swift won a tie, tied somebody, I don't know who, maybe Michael Jackson, I'm guessing, for the most VMAs in a single night.
Wow. Okay.
But what was most interesting to me was that the VMAs took part in continuing the world's year-long tribute to hip-hop.
Okay.
They had it's like a 10-minute medley where Nicki Minaj, who was also the night's host, joined Lil Wayne. I mean, technically he was part of it. DMC, Dougie Fresh, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, who we just talked about a couple of weeks ago, and LL Cool J for a performance that celebrated hip-hop's 50th anniversary and closed out the award show just before Taylor Swift won the Video of the Year, adding to her stack of awards there. Early on in the performance, the first up is Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, who deliver the message.
Yeah.
Again, which we talked about just a couple of weeks ago. Check out our true crime about Sugar Hill and the Rapper's Delight. And just as an aside, I mentioned to you guys, they didn't want to do that song. Grandmaster actually wasn't really part of it. Melly Mel's the only guy who was. It was written mostly by a different guy, Duke Booty, who was a member of the house band of Sugar Hill. I don't think Duke Booty was on the stage. Instead, they all rapped all the parts together, but that's fine.
I just like the name Duke Booty.
Oh, yeah.
Duke Booty.
Speaking of Duke Booty, did you see Nicki Minaj? I mean,
she looks like one of those rap guys' girlfriends.
Anyway, I thought that performance was fantastic. It was so exciting to see those guys. I think the most now they did a similar thing at the Grammys earlier this year. That was even better. It was even better. Run was also there, for example. Only DMC was there at the VMAs last week.
Okay.
I mean, the MTV Music Awards are about the videos and not necessarily honoring the music more generally.
Right.
So I get that. But anyway, Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick performed together. DMC, LL Cool J filled in for Run, rhyming with the DMC.
Okay.
That was pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then he did some of his own songs too, a little medley there. And then they closed out the show singing Walk This Way with DMC. Everybody joined them on stage at that point. Anyway, so since the 1984 debut, that's when the first Video Music Awards premiered. They've been unpredictable. They've been the, not your grandfather's award show type thing, right? I mean, they've had a lot of headline grabbing moments, beginning with that very, very first show. So we're going to talk about some of the ones that caught our attention or that are particular interest to us because of the folks that are involved. And as I mentioned, there's a couple that happened in the 90s. I'll let you know when they are, but you'll know why I brought them up because they're featured folks that we've loved since the 1980s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. No particular order. First up, Weird Al outwoos the audience. And I should mention I got most of these, if not all of these. Let me see. Where did I write it down? I think these are from Rolling Stone. I don't know. I got them from somewhere. If I just say I'm not trying to take credit for putting this list together, I'm crib it. Is that enough?
That's the kind of attribution you want from a book author.
I definitely didn't crib anything from my book. It's not like it's a fictional book. Anyway, so
or is it
sharing the podium with an anxious-looking, a different world actress, Jasmine Guy? Weird Al didn't let the fluffed-up audience praise careen past while presenting the best video of a song for motion picture at the 1989 ceremony. Every time there was a crescendo of woos from the audience, Al turned around and spat one right back at them. Which seemed to make his co-presenter seem increasingly more uncomfortable as he did so.
I can't wait.
I've never seen this. I've seen this.
Shut up.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
This award goes to the best of it. This award goes to the best video of a song from emotion.
The winners, U2 and B.B. King, weren't there to claim their win. Al's final flourish was to pretend to snatch the Moon Man from Guy's arms.
Oh my gosh.
Weird Al is not unlike Stephen King in that way. He also will call it the way he sees it. And in that clip, I know it's a podcast, so you couldn't see it, but if you could see it, he's slightly irritated. Like he's upset that people are disturbing the flow and he's just lashing out in a funny way. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
I was going to point out that we know he's a funny guy and he's a clever guy, obviously through his parody songs, but he's good on his feet. which folks may not appreciate. He doesn't have to sit in a room and craft something. He's present in those moments.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's spontaneous, all right.
Here's another one. Sam Kinison stands up against Rehab. In 1988, screaming comedian Sam Kinison was given a task of honoring Guns N' Roses at the ceremony, where the Hard Rock Bad Boys picked a Best New Artist. He did stand up before introducing them, which was cleaned up for TV. But in spite of that, he declared himself proud of having avoided Rehab, declaring it, quote, a little unfeasible for most people, end quote. And after pointing out that the Betty Ford Clinic, for example, cost $13,000 for a 21-day stay, he says, if you have that kind of money, you don't have a problem yet.
Yep. Oh, I remember that.
He's like, here's a little test, kids. He says, if you have $13,000 to spend on rehab, you do not have a problem yet.
Right.
Because otherwise you'd have spent it already on the problem, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Not all of it has gone to drugs yet.
Or is he suggesting being broke is a bigger problem than being an addict? Don't take it seriously, kids. Get help if you need it. All right. But then he goes on to say something about Huey Lewis.
Is Huey Lewis here tonight? Good, because I hate his music too, man. This guy, I swear, this guy is connected to the government. I think it's the first experiment in propaganda rock. What? Guy always has a song in the top 10. Nobody likes his music. It's hip to be square. Dun, dun. Yeah, that really upset Uncle Sam. Yeah. That's the kind of song your parents listen to go, that's a good song. It's hip to be square. Where's this at? Must be the same town where it's hip to be called Huey, huh? Yeah. Yeah, it's Huey, though. Where it's hip, dude. You guys do it.
I like Huey Lewis. I love Huey Lewis's music.
Yeah.
But I also loved Sam Kinison.
Ditto.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know that I loved him. I guess I laughed at him. But
he was just like John pointed out about Weird Al. He seemed very honest in his comedy, even to be joking about rehab and saying that it wasn't for him. I mean, he's telling the truth. But he did a lot of what was considered an edgy comedy about religion because he was raised in I think in an evangelical household. I believe his father was a preacher and he was destined to be a preacher. You're right.
Yes.
Wow.
His brother was a preacher.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh
yeah. You pick up on that playing the same 3 Sam Kinison cassettes in your 1981 Pontiac Firebird on repeat when you're not listening to the Beastie Boys. You'll learn a lot about Sam Kinison.
Yep.
We know about another cassette in that holder there.
There was just just one other cassette.
Probably Have You Seen Me Lately? I probably wore that out once too. Yeah, that was a great Sam Kinison album. But yeah, I don't even think he was being mean to Huey Lewis in this clip either. I think he was using that for the comedy and juxtaposing how he's so squeaky clean and he's doing songs like rock songs about being nerdy. That how could that possibly? I get it. It's amusing, but that was Sam. Yeah.
Other folks weren't safe from his comedy. He pointed out that Michael Jackson, who only appeared on a video screen there, he made jokes when he first came out about, I thought he was really here. I thought he was going to do a number, but he obviously was clearly on a monitor. And then referred to Michael Hutchins, who he spotted in the audience, as the true Michael because he showed up. Anyway, most interesting to me about that clip from 1989 is he during his announced his stand up there is he says he's 34.
Wow.
No.
Really?
Surprising thing about it.
He always seemed older to me, and I can't. Look what he had accomplished by then, and I've only accomplished this, whatever this is. It's when I see those successful people. And wow,
along those lines, I mean, I've wrestled this before. Is it because he's imprinted on us when we were younger than him? So we saw him when he was 34 at an age when we were teenagers. So he will always be older to us, even though at this moment we are much older than he was then. That he seems to have a knowledge and a life experience or perspective at 34 that I didn't have, I think at 44. And I don't know if that speaks to a generational thing or, like I said, maybe it's just a perception because he's frozen to me as a senior to me.
But even just looking and listening right now, there's no way I would have pegged him in his 30s. I would have said at least in his 40s, at least just from.
I think life experience plays a lot into. You can't overestimate. He had a hard upbringing. He lived a life by the time he reached the 30s, And some people don't. Some people live in the same little town, do the same little things, and that's their life. Whereas he lived a life and he had an experience. Plus, he had the talent to communicate that to us in a way that we loved. So he was bigger than life. It's hard to measure yourself against people like that because it's just they're anomalously amazing somehow.
Okay, hey, next up is 1985's VMAs, where Eddie Murphy has a meeting in the ladies' room. Now, Eddie Murphy had a couple of standout moments during the VMAs. First of all, he hosts the show, but he delivers he opens the show, but he. Why are my mistakes funny to you?
Because
give me a second.
I love you.
What's funny to me, I like Will's reboots. It's like I'm talking. That's your shutdown reboot. Yeah.
I love it when you go. It's just it's so you. It's so.
It's like one.
You know what? I'm looking at a piece of paper. I'm not thinking like I'm not pondering life's big mysteries. I'm trying to figure out what I wrote or copied, as I mentioned earlier. Eddie Murphy had a couple of standout moments during 1985's VMAs. He hosted the show, and so he opened with a monologue that explained about how he wound up hosting it, saying that, quote, "They came to me about 6 months ago and said, Eddie, host the MTV Awards, and I'm an actor, so my first reaction was, fuck MTV."
Oh, okay.
But he continues, "Then I did a music album that hasn't come out yet, and so now I'm here kissing MTV's ass, just like most of you."
Oh, wonderful.
He continued telling a number of different jokes about some of the rock stars there, including about rock stars getting venereal diseases. Suggesting that anyone who wasn't laughing probably had one.
Whoops.
I'm laughing.
Curious.
I'm laughing.
Yeah.
And one of the live moments that didn't seem to be planned or rehearsed, after Glenn Frey won the Best Concept Video Award for his Miami Vice echoing clip for Smuggler's Blues, Murphy decided to insert himself into the proceedings, taking Frey and presenter Morris Day on a trip to the press room downstairs. The detours included brief encounters with Corey Hart, and with the final stop being a trip into the Radio City Ladies Lounge, which generally surprised one woman fresh from powdering her nose. Murphy made the best of the situation, cozying up to a bathroom attendant as the broadcast cut quickly to a commercial.
Is powdering your nose a euphemism for something else going on there?
I think it's for using the bathroom, isn't it? Like going to the bathroom?
Oh.
Isn't that the old...
I think.
Well, it was the VMAs. You could have been powdering your nose.
Oh.
1980s, yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Absolutely.
That's a good
could
point.
have been that. I do think it's a euphemism for going to use the bathroom for some women.
Hopefully it's that. Yep.
I think for some women it actually is going to redo their makeup or something, but yeah. Or that, what you said.
Or that.
Let me see. I'm going to skip some of these. Are not very good at all. Oh, here we go. So here's one of the ones outside of the 80s. 1996. Van Halen's reunion hits the skids.
Oh.
I remember this because this was super cringy.
Uh-oh.
Now, again, I bring this up because Van Halen was huge in the 1980s. Of course, the group began earlier than that in the 1970s, but huge in the 1980s. That is when I became a certified fan with the 1984, and David Lee Roth was still a member, the frontman for the band.
Yes.
So, as you know, since then, he went solo. I think it was 85. I think Crazy from the Heat was 85, maybe.
Yeah.
But a pivotal chapter in the saga that is Van Halen played out right in front of the VMA viewing audience when David Lee Roth appeared with the band for the first time in over a decade to promote a couple of not very classic new songs they recorded for a greatest hit package. The frayed relationship between Dave and Eddie Van Halen was still in evidence on stage, and it would be another 10 years before the two could finally put their differences aside to tour together.
Wow.
What I remember of this is, do I have this clip ready? I remember it being very, it's not going to be good for a podcast audience, but
I'm in the audience.
Right. What about us?
Now, even to come out at the beginning of this, the three continuing members of Van Halen are lumped together.
Yes.
And David Lee Roth almost seems to be following them in, uninvited.
Yes.
And at some point, I swear, it seems like Eddie is surprised to see him there. Like he wasn't told.
David Lee Roth kind of sucks the air out of the room. You know, he's one of those bigger than life people.
We're here to present Best Male Video of the Year award.
Okay,
right?
Dave's line.
Oh,
Dave. No. Instead of the best award thing, we have to make an announcement. We have to address a subject here. This is the first time that we've actually stood on stage together in over a decade.
Alex seems to be growing more uncomfortable.
Oh boy.
Like he took off his mic, it looks like, right?
I think that was his sunglasses.
Oh, is that what it was?
Oh, they're hugging.
Okay.
Kind of strained.
It's not a full-on hug there.
No.
It was a half hug.
That was I'm on camera hug.
I'll do it for Al. We're here to present the award for Best Male Video. Michael?
Right. Is that mine? Oh, yeah.
Have you noticed how things have changed a lot since the last time?
I think Dave's already driving them crazy.
No, really.
Yeah.
It used to be, I want my MTV. And now it's like, give me your MTV or I'll blow your head off, man.
Look. And he took a big step away from him.
Oh my gosh.
They're
Right.
dragging him away.
Right. Because he keeps interrupting. Yeah, and he's like, just get out.
I
Yeah.
want to get back to the thing. Jeez,
We
Dave.
moved him away from the mic.
Yeah.
I should have looked, but I do remember this being a gimmick. Like, nothing came of it for, as it was just pointed out, it was 10 more years before they put their differences aside and toured together, which I think that tour ended right before. I don't think they finished the tour.
Oh, they didn't even
I think it fell
finish
apart
it?
midway.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Back to the 1980s though. 1986. Here they come. You remember this? The Monkees. John, don't give me that look. The Monkees. The Monkees make their MTV audience believers, having become unexpected staples of the network as a result of MTV's Pleasant Valley Sunday, during which the viewers were treated to a marathon of the complete series run of the Monkees.
I loved that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mickey Dolenz, Davy Jones, and Peter Talk took the stage and strutted their stuff to a new generation by performing I'm a Believer, one of their very biggest hits.
Awesome. One of my favorite
Now,
songs.
I remember being a fan of the Monkees during the 1980s. In fact, they did a tour, and my parents took me to see them
Oh, yes.
in concert. I can't remember what it was called. Something about like the gray-haired tour or something like that.
Gray hair tour.
Silver-haired tour. I don't know. But I'm trying to recall if it was MTV that made me a fan of the Monkees. I feel like I had seen them before MTV, like way before, and then
You
everybody
did.
else was catching up. Okay.
It was, what do you call it? It was, what, in syndication, the show was in
Okay.
syndication. And
Yes. Yep.
I know I saw it when I was much younger than a
Okay. I
teenager
thought so
watching it
too.
on MTV. Yeah.
Yeah.
My exposure to the Monkees is, I think like most people probably when they first were exposed to them in the 60s and 70s, whenever the Monkees were in their heyday, right? But was that people didn't realize, first they thought, is it really a band or was it assembled? And the reality is it's both. It was an assembled band, right? They auditioned these guys and got them together. But because the way I experienced the Monkees, I never thought they were anything but just a show. Because they aired in the afternoons. It was The Great Space Coaster, Sigmund of the Sea Monsters, The Monkees, Land of the Lost. Like they were all together because it was a funny show you could watch in the afternoon that was great. Because there was a little story. It was a sitcom and it was funny and there was music in it. And I just thought it was another show of guys that to find out later they were real was like, what?
Yeah.
Right. That they
You
performed
walked that
and
line.
they were albums.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. And they were playing themselves. They were like a fictionalized version, like an exaggerated version of themselves, but it's really them. I was like, I hadn't seen anything like it before. I don't know if I've seen anything like it since. But.
I know they were very unique. Yeah.
Yeah, it did seem the humor even seemed kind of ahead of its time. Like we didn't watch it when it originally aired, like you pointed out. So I don't know how, contemporary it felt in the 60s, let's say.
Right.
But in the 80s, it felt, I don't know, it felt at home in the 80s and certainly on MTV ultimately.
Yeah.
But even still, I think I watched it with my kids when they were younger a few years ago, and they thought they loved it too.
Yeah.
And I still thought it was hilarious and clever.
It was almost a little Python-esque. Like it was absurd and they would turn and wink at the camera intentionally and break the fourth wall all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I used to record. I don't know why. I used to record all the episodes every time it was on. There I was, the VHS. And I went to see them 3 times. I saw them in concert 3 times that, that one year that they were on tour. I just was so into them. Yeah. I had all their albums.
I got to meet Davy Jones one year when I was at Disney's Pleasure Island and he was at Jungle Jim's bar and I got to meet Davy Jones very briefly. So
Where's the horn? We did.
Well, I don't know him personally. I mean, up here. If you must, but you're not a close personal friend.
I would have loved to have met Davy Jones. But Mickey was my favorite. Mickey Dolenz.
Was he? Yeah.
Yeah, he was funnier.
I didn't meet Peter Tork, but my uncle was a member of an original member of the band the Duprees, which was a doo-wop group in the 1960s that actually originated in Jersey City.
Wow.
You Belong to Me. That's the Duprees. So he was.
Yeah, I've heard of them, but I couldn't have told you what song. So okay. Huh.
Yeah, they were being inducted into the Vocal Hall of Fame. In the ceremony was in Youngstown, Ohio, which isn't too far from me. So because my family was going to support my uncle, we went, and a number of other folks were being inducted, including Peter Tork.
Wow.
Pointer Sisters. And because my uncle, we were there with my uncle, we got these, all access passes. So I was just wandering around. Peter Tork was an asshole. I mean, he was just mean. No. He's just mean and obnoxious, and nobody liked him.
Oh, no.
Anyway, which is really terrible.
Now,
Mike Nesmith was my favorite monkey.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's kind of he was a little
cutest.
sort of more, that was Davey, right? He was more aloof. He was kind of this mix of, he was dry.
Did you say Davey was cuter than Mike? Is that what you just said?
Davey is known as the cutest one. Yes, by far.
Davey's the British one.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a matter of taste. Go ahead.
Okay.
Anyway. This is so interesting. I need to hear more about this conflict here.
No, I'm done.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, Mike is wry and dry. And yeah.
I guess I connected more with that.
See, I always liked Peter Tork because he was tall and skinny, and he was like a human Goofy to me.
Yeah. There was a little like Bob Denver energy, right?
Okay.
Like,
Yep.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, a little like subtly manic and a little goofy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely goofy.
Yeah, it's sad that they're all but Mickey Dolenz is gone now.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, here's another moment to cheer you up. 1989, Andrew Dice Clay is banned for life.
Whoa.
Hickory dickory dock.
Yeah. I've got a clip for you here. Let's see if I can do this again. Let's see.
I didn't know the rest. I just said that part.
Is that right? Oh, we want to hear the rest, John.
Look at that jacket.
Good evening, ladies, and good evening, gents. I'd like to welcome you to this event. My name is Dice. I'm here to say I was born in Brooklyn.
Now, he should have just been banned from this, right? Shitty rapping.
I'm gonna do it different, gonna do it Dice style. Well, Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. One came a Spidey, sat down beside, he said, hey, what's in that bowl, bitch? Oh!
Now, I don't know. What was MTV thinking?
What did they expect?
Little Boy Blue. There's another album I used to listen to a lot.
Yeah.
Even I know the rest of that one.
I don't. I just said that part. That's all I know.
Oh, really?
I don't know what you're laughing at. Nursery rhyme.
Yeah. And in addition to the nursery rhyme that we heard just now, he also went to do Rockabye Baby on the Treetop. Your mother's a whore. I ain't your pop.
Oh.
And he said 2 of George Carlin's 7 dirty words you could never say on television.
Oh.
As a result, the Dice Man was banned from MTV after that night, and his career hasn't exactly thrived. This is according to Rolling Stone, who I cribbed this from. Enough to give them any reason to reconsider. Well, I mean, come on. It's 40 years later. I don't know what the relevance of Dice
aside
Clay
from
would be
that,
now.
with all respect, Andrew Dice Clay, that's fucking bullshit. They knew what they were getting into. They brought Andrew Dice Clay onto the show. Did you think he was going to become an entirely different person? Yeah. The obscene, the over the top shock, the potty humor, that was his brand. Yeah. Another example, I don't know. Just somebody who's famous, you're going to bring Carrot Top on, and he's not going to bring props. He's gonna, right? I mean, what did they expect? I don't know. I mean,
he wasn't going to turn into Huey Lewis, right?
No,
Squeaky clean.
No.
Yeah.
They got what they deserved, and he did not. He was treated unfairly, I think.
Oh.
Or they got exactly what they wanted, right? I mean, they didn't need him to come back. He got them the attention. He got them the audience. He got them the press for
banning him.
But then you punish him for delivering what they wanted. That just seems
Yeah, but they tossed him aside, more like. You know, I mean,
yeah.
There's a note here that says, however, he did reappear in a memorable sketch for the 1992 VMAs. So I don't know how he's banned for life then.
Yeah.
Maybe he's banned from being live.
In which he made fun of the whole fiasco. Yeah, that's probably.
Okay. Maybe he was part of it. Maybe it was all a thing, a scheme.
Yeah. Let's see. I got two more for you quickly here. Another one from the 1990s you'll see is connected to the 1980s very easily. Pee Wee Herman, the beleaguered self-pleasurer, is in on the joke. 1991.
Wow. The beleaguered self-pleasurer.
I didn't write this one.
I can see that on a business card.
And then after that, Pee Wee Herman is the character. Oh, I see. That's Pee Wee Herman beleaguered. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Anyway, Pee Wee Herman, of course, was Paul Rubens, who we just should we even do the story? We just lost the man. He's a brilliant comic. I remained a fan of his throughout his troubles.
Yes.
But he had a particularly rough summer in 1991. He'd already taken a break from playing his most famous character, Pee Wee Herman, for over a year, worried that his cult comedy creation had taken over his career. And he's like Cassandra Peterson in that folks didn't know there was a real person in the little suit. You know, he just. Oh, hang on, let me get the paper.
That was great.
Gotta write that down. And then, after he was arrested for masturbating in a Florida adult movie theater that July, the fallout began. CBS pulled reruns of Pee-wee's Playhouse. Toys R Us took his toys off the shelves, and his mugshot became a pop culture meme. Now, let's just stop for a second. Even in as the guy died, I saw articles and people commenting, this guy was disgusting. He did this thing, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
On our Facebook post where we did a little tribute to him, people were posting, some folks posted that. I deleted those things.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Because, it wasn't the context for it. And he hurt no one, including himself.
Right.
If anything, he helped himself and he also didn't hurt anybody. I mean, was it appropriate? No. But the context of it, there's a bunch of guys jacking off in that theater, I guarantee.
Yeah.
Probably right now.
Right. He got caught.
I'm guessing it's part of that culture. I've never been to one, and thank goodness we have, the internet now. But I'm sure they still exist, and people are still doing lewd
Can you
things
imagine
there.
having to get dressed and put on your shoes and drive downtown?
Why are you getting dressed?
That's a big screen motivation right there.
There you go. Oh.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't wait for streaming.
Oh my
Gotta do it now.
Kat, I can't.
The couch.
Scooch.
I'm so glad you said couch, Kat, because you were just going scooch, 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 and I didn't know what you were imitating there.
You gotta get closer to the little TV.
You make me think though, Kat. Yeah, I can't imagine. I love watching movies on a big screen. I don't know that I'd want to see porn on a big screen. That sounds a little too much.
Well, that would be fine. It's just that there's other people there. That'd be the problem for me.
What are
big
you
screen's
doing
great. IMAX, sure. If I could buy out the whole theater.
I don't know that I want to see certain things that large.
I'm going to do it once in that seat. I'm going to do it once in that seat. I'm going to come down front, do it once in that seat. What?
You're going to come what?
Watch the movie in that seat.
There's no guests coming on this show, right? No guests.
What? This is all edited out. None of this is going to hit the show.
That's right.
Don't worry.
I stopped after the news. I'm not even recording. Anyway, but after a couple of months of being on the receiving end of endless wisecracks, Rubens took the stage at the VMAs with 5 words that proved he still had a sense of humor. Heard any good jokes lately? He was a clever guy, super clever, smart, and so many videos came out of him from him cameoing or leaving messages for people, well wishing other people, and it just seemed like such a wonderful, big-hearted guy. And he didn't want anybody to know he was sick because he had given so much happiness and joy to people. He didn't want to take that away. So very selfless in the end. I'm going out like that. I'm telling everybody. I'm calling strangers.
This shit happened to me.
Everybody knows I'm sick. That's right.
Good. Everyone has to pay.
And finally, no list of the VMA's outstanding incidents, performances from the 1980s would be complete without Madonna performing like a virgin in her wedding dress in 1984. Now, what you probably forgotten, because Madonna upstaged everybody that year was that Herbie Hancock won the most MTV Video Music Awards that year.
Did he?
But Madonna left. She's the one who made history. Posed as a life-sized bride figurine on a 17-foot cake.
Okay.
She surprised the Radio City Music Hall crowd with "Like a Virgin," a title song and eventual Hot 100 #1 hit from an album still 2 months away from release.
Wow.
The 26-year-old pop artist playfully spun, rolled, and added a few choice thrusts while draped in the same mix of lace and punk bling, including a boy toy belt buckle.
Yes.
That would grace her album cover.
That's right.
The performance came from a kind of vision that French designer Maripol, her stylist at the time, had. The idea emerged after the initial plan to sing the song to a full-grown Bengal tiger was scrapped.
Wow.
You know what? We were robbed. We were robbed. I want to see what would have happened if she sang to a full-grown tiger.
I wish I had told that.
The road not taken.
Really want to see it.
Somewhere in a parallel universe, they got to see it and we didn't.
Now, what we did get to see, apparently, because I didn't watch the video recently, I watched it within the last couple of years, was various, Jessica Rabbit type moments. No, I'm not going to say that. What we did get to see was, we were treated to, I don't know, I think we could see her underwear or something like that at some point, a shot of her behind.
Couldn't we always see her underwear? Oh, wait, like it was
She's
always.
wearing on the outside sometimes, yes.
That was always there.
I mean, whatever. But it's just so funny to see how prudish, and not us, our parents, older folks were back then.
Oh, I wanted to see her underwear. I wasn't upset.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of going to a movie theater, I don't know why I was speaking to you.
Where's this going?
Say something. I was going to say something, and then I decided to get less honest.
Go back. Get more honest.
I will say this. Speaking of movie theaters and Madonna, I mean, that album, where she's in the dress and the boy toy and she's like, it's inspirational. I'll say that. It's inspirational.
Certainly.
Image.
Certainly.
But yeah, that's why it was scandalous, because she's rolling around on the floor, and you're seeing various states of her body and whatever in this wedding dress. You don't really see anything. But it turns out her explanation
she was scooching the couch, let me tell you.
Yes. But she, so she winds up writhing and wriggling on the stage, again, exposing herself. Not really.
Ish.
And folks, MTV folks were mad. But she didn't realize folks were seeing her, undergarments until she came off stage. And I think it was her manager or someone said, like, "You're done. You're done. This is it. Your career's over."
Yeah, right.
They saw your underwear. No one's ever seen underwear before.
Oh, yeah. That's the kiss of death on MTV.
I mean, now, of course, years later, she explained what actually happened was it wasn't planned. As she was coming down this fake pastry, apparently her heel got stuck in it and caused her to stumble.
Oh.
And so she just turned it into a thing.
Wow.
She did not plan on laying on stage. She fell.
Oh my gosh.
That's a pro right there. Take a problem and turn it into the performance. Yeah. Never let him see you sweat. Never let him know what the plan was if it goes off the tracks. Always act like you're on task, because people don't know what the plan was.
Awesome. I got to write this down, John. I got to use this every week we do the show, or every other week we do the show.
Right. See, the listener doesn't know the plan. So when you go off script, you're like, "Oh, this is not what I planned." Now they know. They didn't know until you told them.
Yeah. I like that.
I'm going to get this all down. But of course, what happened, though, is her career was not over. Instead, this is something that launched her career.
Yeah.
Her album that came out just a couple of months later was, one of the most celebrated, certainly, of the decade.
Yeah.
And she was huge then, and she's still big now, but
she's something. Yeah.
She's
still Madonna. She's weird Madonna.
Nile Rodgers at the concerts, he does a medley of songs that he helped produce. And so he talks about Madonna and he says, "Oh yeah, I met this young woman and I produced her album and blah, blah, blah." And he said, your first release, your first single, it's got to be Material Girl. And she said, nope, I want it to be like a virgin. And he was like, are you sure? she knew what she was doing.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right, there were several controversial, interesting episodes. They're not episodes. Moments from the VMAs.
Yeah, events.
Mostly during the 1980s. And this was our non-controversial.
Not at all.
Non-scintillating.
I don't know.
Not even.
There was a lot of couch scooching, so I'm not sure.
That's true.
Remains to be seen.
And it was
Our
brought to
scooching was-
you. Oh, what? It was brought to you every week. No, I'm sorry, not every week. It's
Just brought to you. Just say
You've
brought
ruined
to you.
everything, Will.
I need
Now
to
Kat has to
stretch
write
that
a new
out.
Just say it's
card.
brought to you, yeah.
our show is brought to
Brought to
you.
you intermittently.
Thanks in part to our very loyal and loving early adopters like Rick Parker and Karen Flieger. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love this.
Get the funky beat.
And thank you especially to our Secret of Our Success level Patreon supporters, also very loyal and loving. And they consist of Craig Coletta, Matt Marino, John Henderson.
Another John.
I'm sorry, John, I wasn't giving you time to do your little things.
No,
there.
it's fine. I just insert
Okay.
them. It's fine.
Well,
I
since
used the ones from last week.
I do it once a season. Just insert them.
And I mixed them up. So it's like John Henderson. He's like, great.
I would love that. If you've done that, I didn't notice.
Craig Coletta. Go, Tony.
Brandon Greer,
Thank you, Brandon.
Marcus Taylor,
My man.
Tony Great,
Great.
and Nick Guillory.
Nick.
Oh,
There you go.
nice.
Yeah,
Call
hey,
the police.
Thank you so much, guys, for supporting the show. Hey, you listening, if you'd like to support us, visit patreon.com/1980s. Now, it's $1 a scooch. Special offer. Special offer right now. $10, get you a hell of a lot of scooches. It's a deal. Whole month's worth of scooches.
That's a real bargain.
It is. All right, hey, we will scooch to you next time on 1980s Scooch.
Scooch, scooch, scooch.
Hey, he needed the money.